Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our Metals and Mining Conference. Our next presentation is from Empire Metals. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Sean Bunn. He's the Managing Director of Empire Metals, which trades on the OTCQX venture market under the symbol EPMLF and on AIM under the symbol EEE. Welcome, Sean.
Yeah, thank you for that invitation to come today to present to this group of hopefully very excited investors. I firstly just want to quickly introduce Empire Metals. We're a London listed on the AIM market, and we have most of our interests, our assets, in Western Australia. So the image you see on the screen at the moment is a shot taken from our Pitfield project, and this is where we have our flagship titanium project. It's located not far from Perth in Western Australia, and I'm going to run through why this is one of the most exciting discoveries of recent time, particularly given its location and given the importance of titanium. Just this presentation will contain some forward-looking statements. All the facts that we've presented here have been presented by our competent person. So I'll move on. So Empire Metals, this is an incredible discovery at Pitfield. What we have found is the world's largest known titanium discovery. It's a district scale event, a giant. It's got exceptional grade, and the mineral in question, as we say, is titanium minerals. It's a market that is growing. It's an important geopolitical market. These are critical metals or minerals. And the important thing about this particular discovery, it's rich in minerals that are in scarce supply. At WA, what can I say? We're located in one of the premier mining districts of the world. It's a fabulous place to make a discovery. We have close to infrastructure. We have access to low-cost energy. There's no problem with transport. We're close to rail systems, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail shortly. We're developing a process here to extract the titanium that is based largely on, conventional mining techniques. Very simple bulk mining. This is a surface located deposit. The ground, the ore is not hard rock. It's friable. It's easy to dig, and all of the steps that we're looking at are basically based on conventional steps that have been used by the industry for decades. We've put together an incredible team. We've got a fantastic board. We'll go into that in a little while as well. But again, Western Australia, Perth, is located right in the middle of several of the major titanium pigment producers. So we have access to technical expertise that is right on our doorstep. And as you'll see as we go further forward in the presentation, at the moment, being a brand new discovery, being a little bit different from the rest of the pack, so to speak, we are obviously appear to be very undervalued, and we are working at the moment to increase our profile. The opportunity to come to the OTC and to be quoted there gives us a much broader investment base to introduce this project to. So just pause for a second. Why is titanium so important? Well, firstly, it's one of the wonder metals. I mean, it is as strong as steel, yet half the mass, half the weight. It is also used predominantly in pigments, high quality pigments that go into paints, paper, plastics, and it has no known substitutes. It is the brightest and whitest of all the pigments. The metal component is getting much more use in critical applications like aerospace. A lot of the jumbo jets around the world, all the aircraft are being looking for titanium metal for the undercarriage, for the structural strength. And of course, defense industries are very interested in securing supply. Fighter jets, submarines use titanium extensively. So it's a really important critical mineral that is becoming more and more essential for the Western supply. The main producers over the last few years have been China, Russia, but there's been a big shift now into other suppliers coming in. So why do we see our particular project of being critical importance to future supply? Well, firstly, titanium is generally mined from low-grade ores. It is predominantly mined as a mineral called ilmenite. So ilmenite is an iron titanium dioxide mineral. The most important titanium minerals in terms of value added to the supply chain are minerals like rutile. Now, rutile is simply a titanium dioxide mineral, so it doesn't have the iron component, and that makes it a lot less expensive to treat. Ilmenite requires intensive energy-consuming projects like you have to smelt it, or you have to convert it into what we would call a synthetic rutile. And all of those are very high energy intensive processes. The importance of Pitfield is that we have no ilmenite in the ore. Basically, we have at surface a very clean, high grade ore body. This weathered cap that sits within our deposit has already been altered by Mother Nature. And hence we have very high-grade titanium dioxide minerals without the impurities that might otherwise affect the downstream processing. So why do we say that this is the world's largest known discovery? Well, firstly, we have completed extensive geophysical mapping, airborne geophysical mapping along the whole ore body. And this ore body runs for over 40 kilometers in length. We've measured it at 10 kilometers at its widest component, and we've traced the anomaly at least 5 kilometers down into the ground. We've drill tested this anomaly. We have over 200 drill holes, over 22,000 meters of drilling. Every meter that's ever been drilled into this deposit has been in mineralization. Every meter from the surface to the end of the hole is in mineralization. Our deepest hole is well beyond 350 meters below surface, and we're still encountering the mineralization. We've put together an exploration target over a small component of the ore body, less than 20% of the area as you look at it from a plan view from surface. And that target is between 26.4 billion and 32.2 billion tons of material that is ranging between 4.5% and 5.5% titanium dioxide. And that's generally how the industry reports the titanium grade as an oxide. You compare that to the average mineral sands deposit, the mineral sands that people are mining along the beaches, they are generally between 1.5%, possibly 2% TiO2. So generally we're 4 or 5 times better grade than those large mineral sands deposits. I mentioned the high purity earlier, and that, as I said, is a very important differentiator for this particular ore body. There's been several discoveries recently of titanium dioxide minerals, but the majority of them have contamination due to radionuclides, uranium and thorium. They may contain phosphorus. They may contain chromium. Our ore body has none of those features. This is a sedimentary hosted deposit. The sediments within the basin are basically sandstone. They're silicates. They're like quartz. There's some iron, but virtually no major deleterious elements. If you were to find a giant ore body, and want to bring that into production, you'd want to make sure you found it in a place that was not only a jurisdiction, a positive mining jurisdiction that was very supportive, but you'd also want to be close to infrastructure. Pitfield ticks all the boxes. We're very well located, not far from the coast. We're about a 3-hour drive on a major highway north of Perth, the capital. The closest port is a port of Geraldton, which is the second biggest port on that western coast. It's only 160 kilometres by rail, and the rail line runs directly through our licenses. We have access to high voltage power. This is not an area that has not been previously developed. We've got all the infrastructure we need to bring a major project into production very quickly. The other interesting thing about being in Western Australia, and particularly in this particular part of the world, is that they were operating in what is called the Midwest Wheatbelt Zone. So we're particularly pleased to say that we have access agreements with all of the farmers in this particular area that we've been drilling. We've been here for a couple of years working with these wheatbelt farmers. They're keen to get extra industry into the area. And the benefit of that, of course, is that these wheatbelt farms have already cleared a lot of the native vegetation that would have been in the area. So from a perspective of getting access for our drill programs, it is quite a straightforward process. And we've been very happy to work with the local farmers and the local Indigenous groups in terms of accessing our drill programs. I just want to focus back in on this comment I've been making about the oxidation, the weathered cap. So basically, as we said earlier, Mother Nature, through its own processes of weathering and rain and the exposure to the elements, has actually converted a lot of these titanium minerals into titanium dioxide. And that's ultimately the product that we want to achieve from our processing. Yes, it still requires some concentration. It requires some downstream refining, but we've got a great place to start. So within that weathered zone, just that top, say 40 to 60 meters, we've already identified between 4 and 4.9 billion tons of ore. And that's sitting around about 4.8 to 5.9, up to that almost 6% TiO2 now in situ. That represents hundreds and hundreds of years of mining. So we're very excited about the prospect of opening up a near surface mine. There's no stripping of overburden. There's no waste removal. There's no drilling or blasting of the ore to get it into broken lumps. This is basically free digging material. So a very cheap mining operation with no waste removal means we'll be delivering these titanium dioxide minerals straight to a beneficiation plant without the additional costs of having to dispose of material that is subgrade or waste. Product development. So over the last 18 months in putting our very first few drill holes into the ore body, we very quickly realized that we had to get metallurgical samples into the lab to start testing how to get the titanium out of this unusual ore body. And it's only in the last, say, 3 to 6 months that we've been able to bring those samples down and start in serious way of getting the ore through the beneficiation processes and into a final product. We've already looked at gravity separation, and that works very well on some of the material, the coarser fraction. We're looking at flotation of the finer fraction to float off the titanium-bearing minerals. We've then taken our concentrates and put them through an acid digestion process to bring the titanium into solution. And recently we announced that from those titanium-bearing solutions, we were able to make, in our very first attempt, a high-grade titanium dioxide product. So our very first almost cider test on the ore body produced a product that was close to 92% TiO2. And it's in a form that could easily be used to supply a very high-grade feedstock to the titanium pigment producers, or ultimately to the titanium metal producers. Now, we'll be doing further work over the next few months to refine that product, but I think it's worthwhile reflecting on this. In 3 months from starting test work, we have already mapped out a pathway to get to a high-grade product. And that speaks volumes, I think, for the simplicity of the ore and the processing being conventional. So what would the process look like? Up front, a very low energy processing stage, free digging, no blasting of the ore, going into a wet scrubbing process, so no need for crushing, no need for grinding. We will do a simple size separation. Some of the ore requires to be floated, as I said. Generally, the finer fraction would go through a flotation process. This is a conventional technique for recovering titanium-bearing minerals from clays and fine material. So we've seen this before, and it's responding very well to our initial test work. The coarser fraction goes through basic gravity spirals, and that separates out the heavy minerals, like titanium, from the silicates and the quartz and the other lighter materials within the sediments. So again, quite a simple, low-cost beneficiation step. We then move on to the acid digestion, which is very similar to what's currently being used by the industry, whether it's a sulfate pigment process or a chloride pigment process is still under evaluation. But the ultimate aim is to get to a very high grade product that would be competing as feedstock to the high grade chloride pigment industry or feedstock to make titanium metal, which means we're selling our product from Pitfield at the very high end of the supply chain. So 2024, what are we going to think about in the last 12 months? How does that set us up for the 2025 milestones? Where are we heading? Well, firstly, 2024 was an amazing year for us. We made the discovery in late 2023 that we had a titanium deposit, but we didn't really have a good understanding then of the nature of the minerals, where the high grades were. The size of the deposit was obvious to us, but how to bring this thing into commercial reality. So in 2024, we set about building the exploration targets. We set about finding the high-grade zones. We assembled a fantastic team of technical metallurgical expertise, and we started to work our way through the processing options. In 2025, now we're moving at a cracking pace. We've already gone to site. We've already drilled in the first quarter to bring down a bulk metallurgical samples. So we have nearly 70 tonne now of bulk samples to put through our test work program. That means we can upscale all the work we've done to date. So we're no longer just doing small batch test work. We're actually using commercial size rigs, the conventional spirals that would be used in a operating plant. We're using those in the laboratory to test how the ore body responds on a much greater scale. The benefit of doing this is that we get to make a lot more product. So once we have a bulk processing of the test work, we can start to generate lots of product samples. We'll be out there in the market towards the end of 2025 talking to the end users. We'll be able to give them samples of our final products for them to test, to understand the suitability of this as a feedstock for their processes. And we still have plenty of opportunity then to optimize the way the process comes together and what sort of products does the market most desperately want. We're about to go back to the site in the next few months and complete another drilling program. Now, this is an infill program. The idea of this program is to move most of the high-grade targets into a mineral resource estimate, a JORC compliant mineral resource estimate that is going to be of such a significant scale that it will re-establish, where Empire sits in terms of its peers. We're about to start mining studies in the lead up to looking at a scoping study type process. We're considering how best to implement that, but an early stage mining study to see how we might go about getting the ore body, mined and delivered in such a way that we can optimize the processing steps. And we're also considering how we can continue to upscale the metallurgical test work in such a way that we can complete these scoping studies and get some financial details in place so that we can come back again to the market with a much better understanding of the commercial reality of this project. So Empire, as I mentioned right at the very start, is currently an AIM-listed company. So we have been operating in the London market for some years. We had a very, very successful 2024, where we're one of the best performing stocks on the AIM. And we're looking forward to that continuing over the next period as we advance the technical and the commercial reality of Pitfield. The fact that we've now been able to get the OTCQB quote is of also great benefit to us in terms of our attracting more and more investors who are really looking for an opportunity to come into something like a critical metals play and believe that something like Pitfield offers great upside for capturing that sort of value as the industry realizes just how important having the world's largest project in a safe jurisdiction really represents. The board and key management. The board has been assembled over the few years that we've been operating across multi-country. It's a really international spread. I'm pleased to say Dr. Neil O'Brien, our non-executive chairman, who is based out of Toronto, he was the former senior vice president for Linden Mining. He's a very experienced geologist, has found giant ore bodies previously in his career, and has been providing the team here in Western Australia with a lot of advice on how to interpret the discovery and what this actually could mean in terms of a mining development. We were recently joined by Phil Brummett. Phil's a veteran mining engineer. He's worked with groups like Freeport, Newmont. He's also based now in the US. Really pleased that Phil has decided to come on board and add some very big mining picture experience to the team. Greg Kunzel is our finance director. Greg was one of the founding directors of Empire, so he has the longevity. He's been with the company for a long period of time. The technical team in Perth, headed up by Narelle Marriott and Andrew Ferrara. Narelle is a process expert. She has worked in some very difficult technical challenges in her career, but I'm pleased to say she came and joined us just over 12 months ago and is heading up the process development work. Andrew, an ex-general manager for Rio Tinto, had joined us nearly 2 years ago and has been working obviously on the exploration phases as we built up this amazing discovery. So all of this takes us to a sort of a position now, I think, where we've got to understand what it means to have found the world's largest titanium mineral system. What does it mean in terms of the scale of this, the importance of having a multi-generational mine. How are we able to grow a titanium business here, knowing that we're operating in a jurisdiction that is not only very supportive of mining, but also has provided, as I mentioned earlier, access to incredible infrastructure. So we're looking to take advantage of all those natural benefits. The ore body in itself is truly amazing. It is almost a unique, occurrence, to be honest. The size of this, to have an ore body that is so continuous in grade, at surface, easy to mine, is quite extraordinary. And we are very grateful for the fact that this allows us to access samples from the ground, get them into the laboratory at a very low cost of exploration, and to be able to commence our process development work in such a rapid way. So I hope that this presentation today has been of interest. We're very excited by the future that the titanium project at Pitfield offers the company. We believe that a staged development process, de-risking each step as we go, and providing some key milestones over the coming months, sets the company up very well for adding more value. And I believe that we will be in a very good place by the end of this year in terms of advancing the project towards a commercial operation. I'm going to end the presentation here with just a final slide that has the information regarding the company. So anybody wishing to reach out, make some contact, ask some questions, please feel free to contact us at info@empiremetals.com. Our website is also there, www.empiremetals.com. And we'll be very happy to follow up on any particular questions that may have come up as a result of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time today.